That is to say, this dimension, this void, is inscribed directly into God himself. And I think there is something of it already in the Judeo-Christian tradition itself. This idea of imperfect God, which you find, for example, in a wonderful Jewish story from I think it's from Kabbalah, the famous dispute between Rabbi Eliezer and some Mishnik sages about some theological point. What happens then is that they have a debate, and one of those who is losing the argument said, wait a minute, let's call God himself. And God comes, and then another guy says, basically, but I don't simplify very much, says, wait a minute, this is an old stupid man who screwed up creation. We are here among learned men. This guy doesn't have any right even to debate here. And the surprise is that God accepts. He says, oh, sorry, you are right, sorry for interfering. There is something in Judeo-Christian tradition about it. What is the underlying message? Now maybe more interesting things to you. And surprise, being here, out of my attitude to Jack, I will even give a hint, if I am able to, as far as I understand it, about visual arts here. No? What is materialism? You know, very simple. You all know it. Let me just recapitulate. You know what is the principle of uncertainty in quantum physics. No, you cannot measure the velocity and the position of a particle at the same time, at the same point. Now, you know what's so problematic here. It's not that you cannot measure it. It's not just your epistemological limitation. It's, in the radical Copenhagen interpretation version, it's an ontological limitation. That is to say, it's not that a particle really has a position and a velocity, but we just cannot measure both. It is that, how should I put it, reality is in itself undetermined. In the sense of, if you get too close to things, you don't find some fundamental units, things get fuzzy, as if disappear into nothingness. Now, let me make a jump to another topic, but it's connected. You will see immediately the link. That's my whole point. Having a small kid and trying to corrupt him so that I can do some work, I am deeply involved in PC CD-ROM games and so on, all this stuff and so on. So what shocked me there so much is this, how the universe we are dealing in there is an ontologically imperfect universe. You know in what sense? How, for example, you are immersed into digital reality there, but let us say a war. You shoot, you look for the enemy, you see there a house. But we know that the inside of the house is not programmed, because it's not part of the game for you to enter the house. Or there is a person you kill, but when you kill the person, it's just a splash. But you cannot cut the person and see the bones, blood, inside flesh, because, again, it's not programmed. Sometimes it even is a little bit scary for me, like with these newer games which have this close-up function, you can approach it. But then when you approach it too much, you see something pretty horrifying, that all of a sudden that faces are not real faces, you know. They turn into just abstract contours, and it's pretty horrifying, as if approaching you too much and see you are not human. You know what I mean? Something monstrous emerges. Now, I hope you got my point, which is, some theologists, in a beautiful way, I love this theory, along the same lines of limitation, stupidity of God, proposed this reading. What if the ultimate lesson of quantum physics is that we should read reality like this kind of a computer game? So, to cut a long story short, what if, in the same way that in a computer game you don't program the inside of the house because it's not part of the game, you cannot enter it. I mean, if it is just a house in the background, of course, there are houses which you can enter. That in the same way, to cut a long story short, God underestimated us, or to quote your beloved president, misunderestimated us. So that God thought, God had to program the universe for us human beings. So he thought, fuck it, why should I take care to constitute it all the way down where humans are too stupid? God made an estimation, humans will be able to reach as far as the atoms. beneath they will not able to go, so why bother? Let's leave it fuzzy, undetermined. So we were a little bit too smart for God, no? Progressed too much where God was too lazy, you know. It's as if when you feel cheated, for example, imagine you buy a house with a garden. Then you go back and see it's not a garden, it's just not even grass. Then the owner says, sorry, I thought you would be too tired, you wouldn't even go back. No, it's something like this. Now you will tell me, but wait a minute, but I have God here, a subject who imagines. That would be for me materialism. Isn't it possible, this is the true materialist task, for me at least, to imagine this imperfectness of reality? You get close to it, it's not fully constituted, it gets fuzzy, it just dissolves into nothing. Like in a film, did you see it? I think it's poetically better than Matrix. Did you see, sorry, I forgot who is the director, even the actors, more modest, 13th Floor. Basically the same as Matrix fantasy, no? The point is the guy learns reality in which we are is a digital reality, but then they tell him if you go, I don't know, maybe you can correct me if you saw it, somewhere in Nevada, New Mexico, where, that if you go there, you literally reach the end. And it's a wonderful scene for me. The guy goes there, walks in a canyon, and all of a sudden he sees Earth is no longer Earth, just flat. Then slowly it passes into this purely abstract digital coordinates. No, it's the end of reality. He meets that fuzzy point. So my point is, that would be the true materialism. To think again this unfinished character of reality as unfinished in itself. You don't need God to imagine it. Reality can in itself be in this sense unfinished. So, what has this to do with painting? I claim in a very primitive way that, this is my very primitive approach, that